topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
Thanks, everybody, for joining in again today. I am Kevin Hallinan, and welcome back to Winning Business TV and Radio on W4CY.com. We're streaming live on Talk4TV.com. In addition, we're streaming live on Facebook, and that's at Winning Business Radio. And, of course, you can get that podcast after the live show wherever you like to get podcasts. That's YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, pretty much, again, all of those outlets. The mission of Winning Business Radio and TV, as regular viewers and listeners know, is to offer insights and advice to help people avoid the mistakes of others, right? To learn best practices. That's the how-tos, the what-tos, the what-not-tos, and to be challenged and hopefully to be inspired by the successes of others. Who are those others? Consultants, coaches, advisors, authors, founders, and owners, entrepreneurs, right? People with expertise. But, you know, virtually every successful person that I've ever had a chance to talk to has had some form of failure in their lives and careers. So as I say every week, while we all have to get our knees skinned once in a while, I'm driven to keep those scrapes from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. I've spent the better part of my career equipping businesses to grow, from solopreneurs to small and medium-sized companies, all the way up to the Fortune 50. And I've seen a lot of those companies win to varying degrees, and I've also seen some of them fail to varying degrees. I've had the opportunity to rub elbows with some of the highest performing people around, and frankly, with some who probably should have found other professions. In my own businesses, I've had lots of success, but some failures too. And I like to think I've learned a lot from those experiences. So yeah, you'll hear from me, my opinions and insights, because anyone who knows me will tell you that I have a hard time staying quiet. But more importantly, together we'll hear from experts, those consultants, coaches, authors, advisors, founders and owners, entrepreneurs. And today is no exception. My guest is Kathryn Tague. She's a branding and digital communication expert and founder of Influence Digital Media. Here's your bio. Kathryn was the senior executive editor of the Good Men Project, the world's leading progressive men's publication, for 9 years, and was the director of media partnerships and social media branding, strategy, and content strategy for 6 years. She's been a writing coach, storytelling coach, and book development coach since 2016, with over 100 titles in her editing and publishing portfolio. Of those, over 99% have been listed as bestseller, best new release, and top-selling books on Amazon. She works with high-level influencers, entrepreneurs, and coaches to bring their stories to life and elevate them to the status they deserve. Influence Digital Media provides comprehensive branding and digital communication services. Kathryn and her team specialize in growing personal and business brands for entrepreneurs and multi-million-dollar companies, offering full-service social media content and branding from strategy to implementation, easy for me to say, and analytics. Kathryn, welcome to Winning Business Radio.
Having me.
How's that? That was
great.
Right?
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I appreciate you being here. I know how busy you are. So I want to get some background on you. I always like our listeners and viewers to know kind of where someone came from. So kind of tell us where you grew up. Let's start there.
I grew up in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Lansing, Michigan. Both of my parents are Michigan State alumni.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So they hate Ohio State. You're telling me.
Yeah, probably. When I was, not even a teenager yet, and they divorced, and my mom moved to Chicago, and so we split time between Chicago and Michigan.
Yep.
With our parents back and forth there. In 2001, I moved to Austin, Texas. I was 21 years old.
Cool.
I was ready for a change. We had the worst winter storm they'd had in like 20 years. We got like
Wow.
4 feet of snow in 24 hours. And I was like,
Wow.
I'm out.
That's it, right? That's it.
Yes. And lived in Austin for the next 20 years. I went to college in Texas. I met my daughter's father in Texas. We, had a family. We were together for 12 years. Late 2019, that relationship ended, and the girls and I moved to Utah. And we were in Utah until this last July, and now we're back in Texas.
Very good. We'll talk about that too. So what was it like growing up in kind of splitting time, which many, many, many people do?
I think we thought it was exciting at first. We got to ride the train. So think, late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because we didn't have the internet or if my sister and I were just exceptionally mature for our age, but our dad would put us on Amtrak in Kalamazoo, and we would take the train down to Chicago. Amtrak actually let off in the basement of the building downtown where my stepfather worked. He worked in the building that's shaped like this.
Yeah.
And so he could just walk down from his office, and we'd get off the train and he'd be there waiting for us, and we'd hop on the L and we'd go to their house and then back again. So, I think if we had been a little bit older, it may have been a little more difficult for us, but we were young enough when they initially separated that I don't want to say it's all that we knew, because I certainly remember my parents being together, but it was just normal for us at that point.
So what did or do your parents do?
So my dad has a degree in medical technology, and he worked for the American Red Cross. He started in the lab and then advanced into administration. And then he worked at Foot Hospital in Jackson, Michigan for several years. And then he and my stepmother moved to Arizona, and he worked for United Blood Services. And by then he was in a lot of research and development and administration stuff. He worked with stem cell research. He worked on cancer research.
Wow.
That sort of field of study for him. My mom was a homemaker. She studied to get her social work degree in college and had kids and never finished. So that was her thing.
I get that. What were your early interests? So eventually we're going to get to how you made it into marketing and branding, but not yet. What were your early interests?
Reading.
Yeah.
I was a voracious reader. I had a college level reading level by the time I was 7 or 8 years old.
Wow.
There was a lot of freedom in reading for me. We grew up in a very religious household. And so we didn't really watch TV, and we didn't really listen to like modern music type stuff. So reading was somewhere where I could go and I could kind of like explore the world and explore different cultures and different
fiction,
societies.
nonfiction,
all of it.
Yeah,
all of it. Clara Barton, who is the founder of the American Red Cross.
Yeah,
she was one of my heroes when I was young.
Cool.
I read a lot about American history. I read a lot about European history. I had a period of time where I was fascinated by the Greeks and Romans. So really, and I could get my hands on. I loved Anne of Green Gables, the Laura Ingalls Wilder series, all of the C.S. Lewis books.
Oh yeah.
It's like if it came in book form, I was gonna read.
So how did that background in reading, here's the segue, right? How does that help you today?
Well, helps because readers are leaders, right? Leaders are readers.
I'm with you.
A lot of what I do as a business owner, not in the business, but on the business, focus on leadership, right? I do a lot of, work with small businesses and, startups and entrepreneurs. And the things that I've found over the years that is a sticking point for a lot of this is how to step into leadership role, because there's such a huge difference between leadership and management. They tend to it's really easy to manage. It's a lot harder to right. We're not necessarily taught what the difference is there. But it all helps.
That is true, by the way.
Communication, right? Like having a big vocabulary even before I became a writer and editor and started book space. Being able to communicate clearly and pick up clues and whether you're reading or writing or face-to-face conversations. I've not been confident in my ability to communicate.
Excellent. So what did you study in college?
Political science with a minor in psychology and sociology. So,
and what did you have in mind with those degrees?
At
the time,
I was going to go to law school.
Cool. Yeah.
I wanted to get a law degree. I wanted to focus on constitutional law. I hoped to someday work with the Southern Power Center and the ECOE.
Wow. Yeah.
Growing up in the West, we talk a lot about current economic state. And what a lot of people don't realize is the Midwest has been in a depression since the late 60s, early 80s.
Yeah, losing a lot of manufacturing, et cetera, right?
So much manufacturing, all of the mills, GM. I don't have a single childhood memory where GM workers weren't strike, or there wasn't some sort of factory shutting down, or you know what I mean. And so there's a lot that into that. There's a lot that play into sort of these economic hardships. And a lot of that I grew up within the kids that I school with, their parents didn't have college educations. I didn't understand at the time how lucky we were that my parents did have the educations that did and were able to have the careers they had, or specifically my dad. But there's a lot of racial tension that goes into sort of the Midwest and the people and the communities that are hit most when the economy downturns.
Yeah.
And so that was my passion. That's what I was going to do. I was going to fight for the downtrodden. I was going to defend rights. I was going to support Americans in the best way that I could. I love the Constitution. Love the Constitution.
That is really admirable and unusual that somebody at a young age. I mean, we're talking 17, 18 by the time you were thinking of school, right? Really unusual. How did you develop that interest and passion, it sounds like?
I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
My dad had 3 brothers who were in the military. His dad was in the military. I don't really remember growing up with the thought process, but it was maybe it's from all the reading and understanding how different other cultures are and other countries are, and recognizing like how I hate to use the word blessed again, but that's like the perfect.
No, I know what you mean.
Like blessed we are to be here and to have.
I mean, with our problems, I know we're getting a little esoteric, but with our problems, we're still the best place.
The
to
best
live,
country in the world,
right?
We really are.
Yeah.
And and there are people who will do that, and I could debate it along with them. It's what I look for. But the fact of the matter is being a woman and growing up a woman in America, there were rights and privileges afforded to me that I was very conscious of. That would not have been afforded to me in other countries. Our church used to sponsor families from Vietnam, from Nigeria, from some Middle Eastern countries come here. And one of the stories that I was consistently hearing, and you figure I was 5-7 years old when we were, sponsoring these families, but was that their girls educated. And the reason their families came here is they either couldn't obtain education or they were not allowed to be educated. Like at 6-7 years
Crazy,
old,
right?
who like just eating books for lunch. I could not understand so, and my parents were always very open, and they would answer our questions to an age appropriate level. My dad used to talk to us about how lucky we were that live in a country where education is a right.
Good for him. Hey, we're going to take our first break, and we're getting a little choppiness on your end. I'm going to ask you to do this. Refresh your browser, enter back in, and hopefully that'll clear up the echo. All right? We'll see you. And by the way, everybody else is going to take a break too. First commercial break. We'll see everybody back in about a minute.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Have you ever dreamt of being on the radio? Well, now is your chance. Be a radio show guest on the #1 ranked internet radio station and promote you and your business for free. Yes, you heard it, free. Business advertising right here on W4CY.com. Call 561-506-4031 now to get booked on one of our shows. That's 561-506-4031. Get your free advertising now.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
Okay, we are back with Kathryn Tague, branding and digital communication expert and founder of Influence Digital Media. All right, when did you know that you wanted to be in branding and marketing? How long did that take? What was the transition? I mean, what was that progression like?
I had no idea that I wanted to be in it. I'm going to date myself here. When I got my Facebook account, Facebook for college students only, you have an education. So I was in college at the time. I was living in Austin, Texas, and I was for political science, psychology, sociology. Like I said, I was going to law school. I was going to change the world. And I was in a relationship with my daughter's father at the time. I was finishing up my bachelor's degree and getting ready to take my LSATs and head off to law school. And I found out I was pregnant with our oldest daughter. And I had a very, I'm a plan girl, and a very set, like, I'm going to do law school. I practiced law for years. And I was going to have kids. I even had kids. Then I was going to get my PhD. Then I would teach law at university. Like cool. that was the plan, and it had been planned since my late teens. It didn't, life didn't follow my plan.
we could spend an hour just talking about that.
Right? But I knew I wanted to stay home.
Yeah.
And for a lot of different reasons, but I'm a firm believer of the importance of having a parent in the home, especially having a mom, right? I wanted to be that for her. And so I kind of put everything on the back burner, and 8 months I was home, and I did not love it. But I didn't want to put her in daycare. Right. So I told myself, this internet thing is to grow. And this was in 2011, and I thought, but I could find some work home. It just, it wasn't what I was looking for. I was great at the things I was great at, and I was terrible at technology. And I was actually sitting, nursing her one night, and I was on Twitter. And I had followed several different online publications. And at that time, at the end of 2011, beginning of 2012, it was the beginning of the end for print media. Okay. But most, large publications were still, like Cosmo and things like that, were still a lot of print media. and they were kind of doing at Facebook. This was before all of the things that exist.
Right. They were playing in digital.
Right. And digital thing, they might throw a couple up a week. They were focused on print. Yeah. And the other thing was blogs, right? Blogs were starting to really take off at that. And I had followed a blog, the Good Men Project. It was very much in line with my experience and thought process at the time, a very progressive magazine. Mm-hmm. And they had put a tweet out saying that they were looking for a news blog editor. And I was like,
that's me.
I'm your girl, right? No, what I actually did is I messaged the publisher, and her name is Lisa Hickey, and she's just a phenomenal human being. And I said, I have no experience blogging. I am not a tech girl at all, but I know, and I love words, and I understand pics, and I am journalism, and can I, if not as an editor, can I at least write a magazine? And she messaged back, and the next day we jumped on Skype. You remember Skype?
I still, once in a blue moon, somebody wants to use Skype. We still have it on there.
Right?
I don't think the icon's in my tray, but it's on the computer, yeah.
Right. So we jumped on a Skype, and, and she told me, she said this, we don't know what's going to happen with this. Right now it's a blog. That's it. It's a blog. But we're trying to turn it into something else. It was a spin-off of our founder. He's written a book called The Gun Project, and it's an anthology of all the different stories of men, and things come because really at that point in our culture, the feminist movement had started to raise the voice of the.
So I actually did some nosing around and looked at some of those articles, and actually found one like pretty close. I was just looking around, nosing around, and I see Andre Tippett. I'm a huge Patriots fan, and in particular a fan of his. And I'd met him once. He coached his kids' football team while I was coaching. I was done coaching my kids, but I was still coaching. And so a couple times I had the opportunity to coach against him. He beat us, but what are you gonna do?
Right? Yeah. It's
very authentic. I thought his story was very authentic.
It is, and that was the heart of the magazine, is to take and the stories about men, for men, by and really start to get them out to the mainstream. The men's magazines at the time that existence were either things like Play or like EQ and Health, and they solid editorial writing, but they weren't focused on men as husbands, men as fathers, as leaders. Stories of men as nurturers, as caregivers. Stories of men who survived abuse. We had all of these stories from women about being single mothers and about surviving, trauma and things like that. And there was very little space. And so that's what the Good Men Project was, which I think it really resonated with me, that we were creating this platform for men, a world that very much made them secondary.
So how did you, that's I don't mean to downplay that. I'm thinking in my head, that's really cool. Love that mission. How did you grow that project into what it became?
Well,
I know that's not a quick question.
It's not, and it was right place, right time, right? Mm-hmm. We were figuring out Facebook. We're figuring out Twitter. And when I say figuring out, like, we were getting on marketing calls with the online marketing teams from some of the really large publications, Huffington Post, Maria Shriver's team, some more, like Esquire and GQ. And we would get on these marketing calls, or we would all be connected in a group chat. And at that point it was Google Chat, right? Like Google Meet kind of, the original Google Meet, not the Google Meet. Keep dating myself here.
I have a client. We still meet on Google Meet, believe it or not.
Okay. Okay. I'm not that old.
Yep.
But and we did they change the algorithm and then showing up anymore? And what are you doing about this? And then we started getting content, and I had an amazing team with me at the time. Some of them still in online publishing, and just were phenomenal people. And we were all problem solvers, right? And if we noticed that things weren't getting the same amount of views, or they weren't getting reach, and we'd have, calls multiple times a week. And what we were doing without realizing we were doing it is we were learning how to do online marketing. We were learning how boosts worked. We were learning how ads worked. And this is when they were just rolling these things. So Facebook didn't really know how they were going to, they hoped they were in a way. We had direct access to people at Facebook, direct access to Twitter, because they're still in their infancy. You think about it, Facebook didn't go public until 2009, right? And when I say public, it was open to other than college students.
Right.
It was either 2008 or 2009, and this was the end of 2011. Like, we were still in our baby stage at that point. And so while learning all of that, our editor-in-chief stepped up. And this was at the end of, had to have been at the beginning of 2013, because I was pregnant with my second daughter. And through that pregnancy, we were kind of like just trying to figure things out. And he fully sound. But about a half after my daughter born, my second daughter, because I have four girls.
just the four. I like this.
Four.
We've had this conversation. I have 4 kids. I like to say just the 4.
Just 4 plus the three bonus here.
That's right.
But so our publisher came to me and she said, "Is this a position you'd like to take?" Well, by then I'd been in the magazine long enough to know 18-hour days, 6 days a week, and it's no joke. We had grown from a very small team at that point. We had multiple sections, multiple editors, we had writers, we had content creators. So it was a much bigger job than when I had initially came as the news blog editor at the end of 2011. And I told her, I said, with a 2.5-year-old and a brand new baby, I cannot commit to that kind of time. What I do though is I can help you build. And so we created the executive editor team, just something that at the time in both print media and online media was unheard of. You had one publisher, you had an editor-in-chief, and then you had a hierarchy beneath them, which is how we initially built the Good Project. But that didn't work for us. It just didn't. And so we created a team. It was me and another woman, and then 2 men, because it's a men's magazine. At that point, we really wanted to elevate men into leadership. And that was amazing. It was the most supportive, like, just team environment that I have ever been on before or since. It was phenomenal, the synergy within the team.
And who, if I could ask, who's responsible for creating that dynamic?
I think each and every one of us, but I would a lot of credit to Lisa, our publisher. She was not a manager. She has a background in advertising, background, and didn't do advertising. And so she could come off hard as nails sometimes, but really what it came down to for her was that we all aligned in our mission. And she just doesn't micromanage. And she was basically like, you guys are not children. You're all professionals. You've all been with this magazine for years. You know what we're aimed for. Yeah. So I think that was about.
That's great to be around a leader like that. All right. We are going to take our second break. We'll be back in about a minute with Kathryn Tague. And Kathryn, I'm going to chat you.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
The YP.com website is your local search engine. If you're looking for a good restaurant, it can help you find the right one nearby with ratings and reviews. Or if your car breaks down, you can use the YP app to find the closest repair shop. Or maybe you're just looking for something to do on a Friday night. Well, it has great local coupons for all sorts of things in your area. No matter what, when, or where, if you're looking for something, YP Local Search can help you find it. So go to YP.com or download the app to search local, find local, and save local.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We are back with Kathryn Tague. So where, after the Good Men Project, where did you go? And what was behind the decision to maybe make a change?
So what happened was in 2015, one of my writers came to me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I wrote a book." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And he was like, "I want you to edit it for me." And I was like, I how to do that. I have no idea how to do that.
Just find the typos. Isn't that all you do?
I'm sorry?
Find the typos. Isn't that all an editor does?
Find the typos.
Just kidding.
That process at the same time, I had another writer come to me and say, I'm getting ready to publish this book, and the publishing company that I'm working with says that I need to grow an audience. And I was, "Oh yeah, that's totally cool. I can show how." And he was like, "I don't want to do it. I just pay you to do it for me." And I was like, "People do that? Is it that we do?" Because the fact of the matter is there isn't a lot of money in online publishing. So we were bootstrapping everything.
Yeah.
We did the marketing team. We were the marketing team, right? And so here I was, like literally within a week's time, I had people who wanted to pay me for skills that I just completely took for granted. And so I started to influence digital media, and very quickly had enough, for the social media strategy and branding that I was bringing on days. I was building a team. I was learning Create Space, which is now called KDP on Amazon, but way back in the day, the olden days, as my kids called it, it was called Create Space. And I dove in head first, and I started learning everything that I could about online publishing, how to have covers designed. Fiverr wasn't a thing back then. You know what I mean? We were using Upwork. So we would go and we would find graphic designers on Upwork. I started learning about websites and email marketing and podcasting, and it was like hard to explain. It's like I could see the way all of these pieces joined together for the first time in my life, and everything I had learned at the magazine, I got to put into this business. And what was more amazing about it is then we've grown them into the point where we did have a phenomenal team on board. I could really move more into the leadership aspect. It was less day-to-day hands-on. I wasn't and
I was going to ask about, sounds like you had more, or the ability to have more work-life balance at that point.
Yes, very much so. And so I got to focus on growing my business. And then I got to learn about like online networking groups. These were things I wasn't raised by entrepreneurs. I didn't know any of these were a thing. And I actually hired a woman to come in and project manage the social media branding side of Influence Digital. So that I focused on growing the book side. And she was like, "Any online networking group?" I was like, "What is this brilliance?" And bam, they went from that to move into I got to build on another aspect of my business, which is small business consulting.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of a sudden here I was 7, 8, 9 years into growing businesses. So I got to start stepping in on that too.
Go back to books for a second. You've had some real success with your authors. I read earlier from the bio, over 100 titles in your editing publishing portfolio. Of those, actually, no, this was from the website, not from your bio, but over 100 titles in your editing and publishing portfolio. Of those, 99% have been listed on bestseller, best new release, and top selling books on Amazon. Mm-hmm. That's pretty successful. Can you talk about sort of the process there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a numbers game. And what we do when we're from day one, what we do is talk to our authors about the fact this is one aspect of your marketing wit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we work very closely with them, not just how to market the book, but how to market what comes after the book. What are you using the book for? Where is it going to send people? Is it a lead magnet? Is it a passion project and you don't care if you make any money off of it? Because the fact of the
Those
matter
are very
is
different.
they are.
Yeah.
They are. And the fact of the matter is there's very little ROI on book sales, right?
Yeah.
After you figure in the cost of an editor, getting it published, bringing in cover designers, having a website created, all of those things. The ROI really comes in with how you use the book afterwards. So it comes in podcasters that bring in clients, speaking engagements that clients who have a program, course, or a group coaching.
Right.
In bringing customers and clients into that, positioning yourself as an expert and authority in your field. So to circle back, we get them to bestseller. Well, a lot of that has to do with what we're doing on the back end from the very beginning. So our process is somewhere between 8 to 12 months. And the reason that we spread it out that long is because it gives us the opportunity to really get the audience up and running. We start talking about the book months before it's going to launch, right? We make sure that they're in the right groups. We make sure that they're sharing, different versions of the cover and letting vote on it. Getting people excited to be involved in book development process, right? And then once the book goes live, we're very well, before it goes live, we get into Amazon. Very strategic keywords we use. Very strategic with the categories we choose. There's a lot of research that goes to preparing your back end to make sure that the book is going to be optimized to the best that it can be. There's a lot of conversation around what we do, how we choose titles, how we choose subtitles, what colors we're using on the cover. There's a lot of psychology behind that. It's not just something that we slap together in as quickly as possible. I have been on those projects. I'll tell you where just, I know this more sense, but I don't like it. With this. And ultimately, at the day, it's the creation, and so we kind of have to long. But the books that we either have to push really hard or may not hit bestseller.
How much of that is how much of that is your business versus the other things? And I want to get my notes. So I'm going to go a little bit backwards. What percentage of time do you spend with authors and with that nature? Sorry.
It depends. Some of my authors come to me and their manuscript is almost completed, and they really just need someone to run them through the end, right? Yep. Just need to hit the finish line. I don't get as many of those as I used to, and I think that's because so much of my experience has been in the development side of the books, and those authors, they get as much time from me as things they need. Build out the outline. We build up the plan, and we have very deep questionnaires that they get so that we know what direction to take the book beginning. Because if we're in one direction and then it's halfway through, there's a lot of work that we have to tear and redo. And so we'd like to get a lot of clarity. That's where a lot of code comes in, a lot of conversations. Quite often, the first 5 to 6 weeks working with especially a new author who's never written a book before is more about conversations, all of which are recorded, and we get transcripts of. We pull that content for the book. Then we develop the outline. And then from the outline, we have a couple different ways that they can create the manuscript. Some people love to sit down and type. Other people, if I never typed a day in my life, I'm good. So we have different ways, whether it's an interview process or we'll lay out the individual chapters. So have sort of a script, and then they'll talk it to like .com, and then we'll get transcripts. If it's someone like you who has an entire library of recorded content, we may go pull recordings and transcripts from that. I work with a lot of motivational speakers, entrepreneurs, and influencers who have a lot of content.
Yeah.
Right. And so that helps also with the development. There was a very period of time in the beginning where I was doing a lot of ghostwriting, and that's not something that I do anymore, but I have ghostwriters that I have worked with in the past who are phenomenal. If someone really wants to go that route, I have those people for them too.
Cool. All right, let's go back to your branding and marketing work. Who is your for that work? Who's your ideal client? What do they look like? It could be a range, but just help us.
Yeah, no, it's shifted. It's really good. I used to work a lot of men, a lot of entrepreneurs. I think probably coming out of the Good Men Project, I was really known in those circles. I with a lot. Now we call them influencers. Back then they were bloggers and vloggers.
Yeah.
Right? Just really helping them get exposure, explaining how not just social media works, but how to really get your social media optimized and lined up to the point where magazines and online publications coming to you, because really express how they grow their brand, right?
So their brand could be them as the individual. Their brand could be their work product as well.
Right.
Is there a difference in how you go to market with those?
There absolutely is a difference. And like foundationally, it's all product based. People don't understand. We have a tendency to want to divide it to product and non-product. But when you're talking about a business brand and a person brand, you are product in the brand, right? And so sometimes people have a hard time with that, and that, but it's just fact. And if we can really take the emotion of it, the emotion comes later, right? The emotion comes when we're finally creating content, but we're building the brand itself initially, the brand voice, structure, the marketing plan, because branding and marketing are two different things. They kind of exist under the same umbrella, but they're not the same. It has to be really emotionless. And that quite often when people come to me, they want people to feel. And I read this thing, and about branding is about how you make the feel, and it is publicly the forward facing piece, but back end piece of it has to be very strategic, and it has to be very tactical if you want to succeed at.
How long does a branding I think I know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. How long does a branding project take?
It depends on the brand. It really does. And it depends on if working in from the ground floor and we're building it all the way up, or if we're doing a rebrand, or if it's an existing brand that they're really in love with. They just need some fresh eyes on it. They need an infusion of new blood, per se, or new energy, right? And so those are packed differently, and it takes a different period of time. People tend to think that you come in and turn it on, and that's not really how it works. Especially also including social media management and implementation. Something like that can take 6 weeks to fully functioning. I think we live in a society that really instant gratification is how we all exist now. And that's not the way branding and social media works, especially when you're talking about organic. Now, if they want to throw some money into ads and boosts and things like that, that's a different conversation. But we tend to focus more on organic. And I'm a firm believer that slow and steady is the best way to go. It's what makes growth sustainable. It's what gives you the long game and the short game. It's easy to make a lot of cash really fast. It takes a lot more work to sustainably and stably grow business, i.e. cash flow from some social media and from building a brand. We see a lot of people over the years, and I've been doing this for, if we count the Good Project, for 13, 14 years now. And I've seen a lot of people who came in hard and heavy and fast, and they grew really, really fast, and it's not sustainable.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's probably not sustainable. They stop spending that money, and all of a sudden they're not seen, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And all of the platforms have become very much pay to play. And so you understand how pay to play works, because it's like want to feed them a little bit, but you want to feed them $3 to $5 a day, $300 to $500 a day. Then when you know your marketing budget in the first 6 months and you have to dial it back, all of them, they're like, well, but we're paying us all these dollars, and now you're not. So sorry. You know what I mean?
All right. I've got a little bit of an end game in the next few minutes, but who are your clients?
Who are my clients? Oh, you asked me that earlier. I started with men. It's shifted a lot. I am working with a lot of female entrepreneurs,
cool, yeah.
women who are like me, women who got started early on, who have built really phenomenal, amazing things, and now they're tired, right? They're maybe tired of being the driving force behind things. They're tired of always having to be the girl. Maybe they have teams. Most of them have teams at this point. For a long time, they didn't have teams, and it was just them. So part of what we would do would come in, and we would bring, we'd help them bring in a team, and then we would train them on their social media. I don't an agency, so I don't have social media management clients for long periods of time. We're much more set up to get your team trained, to get your team functioning well. We'll design the strategy. We will be supportive. I do have an in-house social media manager who is phenomenal, who does have an agency. And so when someone comes to me, they're like, I want a long-term engagement with you. Awesome. I got a girl for you. Because I'm not your girl. I'm seven, I'm not your girl.
All right. Last couple of questions here. Who in the listening and viewing audiences should reach out to you, and why?
Oh, that's a really good question. I guess, my gut reaction is anyone who has a story to tell. That really is, we talked a lot about the business aspect of it, but like my passion goes back to when I was a little bitty girl, and it's those stories. It's stories. I love hearing people's stories. I think our stories make us who we are.
For sure.
And there's so much magic. People come to me all the time and they say, why should I write a book? I don't have anything unique to say. But you're unique and your stories are unique. Maybe your teaching is normal business teaching stuff. Okay. But you are what makes it unique. Your stories are what make it magical. We could write the same book 137 times and it would be every time because everybody's different as story. Story is different.
So true. All right. We are unbelievably out of time. She is Kathryn Tague. Her company is Influence Digital Media, and that's her website, influencedigitalmedia.com. You can reach her at Kathryn, Kathryn, at influencedigitalmedia.com. And Instagram is Kat, Kat_Tague, Tague. Give her a call, or rather reach out. And if you think you need some help, have a conversation. Kathryn, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. This is a show about business and business challenges. If you've got concerns about the sales effectiveness of your company, whether your sales team is you or very small or it's very large, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn at Winning Business Radio. You can drop me a note to one of my email addresses. It's kevin@winningbusinessradio.com. Our company is Winning Incorporated. We're part of Sandler Training. We develop sales teams into high achievers and sales leaders into true coaches and mentors. Hey, we're not right for everybody, but maybe we should have a conversation. Thank you again to producer and engineer Juan for another job well done. Thank you, Juan. Be sure to join us next week, Monday, November 25th. My guest will be Caitlin Young. She's the social media strategist and founder of Social Media Doctor. Until then, this is Kevin Hallinan.
You've been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.